I am a senior lecturer in racism and health in the Department of Global Health and Social Medicine at King's College London.
So my name is Rihanna Raymond Williams. I'm a writer and researcher from London.
And my name is Ayo Tunde Ojo. So I'm a PhD student at the University of Manchester. So I'm doing my research in global health history. Focusing on the history of Nigeria and the WHO. So I'm looking at this a story of cooperation. That's what I'm doing.
Hi, I'm Kelechi Anucha. I did my PhD at the University of Exeter. And my background is in literary studies, but have been working for the last 4 years on a kind of medical humanities adjacent Wellcome funded collaborative award on the temporalities of healthcare. My next project will look at mental health and I guess the concept broadly of madness in relation to genre and counter-psychiatric frameworks. I've been working at the last few months on the Black Health and Humanities Project as well. Yeah.
My name is Yewande Okuleye, and at the moment I'm working as a poet in residence at University of Oxford on a project called Oxford Health Histories. And within that project, I'm looking at mental health and how we can look at creative ways as historians to look at histories of mental health, the asylum and everything else. So I'm really enjoying that because it's made me think of how I can use poetry, spoken word and sound to look at difficult histories.
I'm Arya Thamparan. I'm an assistant professor in Black Health and the Humanities at Durham's Institute for Medical Humanities. I also am the PI on the Black Health and Humanities Network, and currently I'm developing the decolonial strand in the Narrative Practices Lab, which is part of the IMH's at Durham Narrative Discovery Research Platform, which is Wellcome Trust funded.
My name is Chimemwe, and I am a PhD student in medical anthropology and visual history at Durham.
So my name is Maxwell Ayamba. I'm a academic. So I'm currently a PhD student at University of Nottingham at the Department of American Canadian Studies. So I'm looking at trajectory race, ecology, and environmental justice in the UK. I'm also an environmental journalist by profession.
Yes, so I have to think back. So I was actually told about it by a colleague who circulated it. I think it was just before the pandemic or around the time of the pandemic. The years all merge into one, honestly, around the time of the pandemic. But anyway, so this colleague forwarded the details to me. And at the time, I was a researcher and I was finding it quite difficult because I have a background in humanities and then I did my PhD in sociology, and so I kind of moved into the social sciences, but I was really craving that kind of humanities edge, I guess, or to have conversations with people in the humanities, because it really helps me to think through my ideas, develop my work, and I was really missing that. And so this came up and I thought, oh my gosh, this is perfect. It's been a really, really nice place to meet people who aren't necessarily working in the same area, but that are interested in overlapping things. I think that's it.
So I joined the network at the beginning of my PhD, and I think it was very important for me to really consider or think about the networks that I wanted to be a part of. A friend actually shared it with me and we intended to apply together. I don't know if she applied or not, I don't remember now, but I know that I was accepted and welcomed into the network. And I think I was really thinking about the spaces I wanted to be a part of. Previously I haven't had good experiences with academia. And I think I wanted to find a community outside of academia that could support me, nourish me, and give me, the strength that I need to get through the journey, because doing a PhD is not easy. So I think I went into the network looking for community, and I think I've definitely found that on the journey.
One of the reasons why I joined was I have a passion for Black British history, and I wanted to, especially the black health history. So I wanted to work more on it to uncover more stories about black pioneers and achievements of black people in the area of health in the UK. So that was one of the reasons why I joined, just to have that space to network with other people of like minds and just to just to increase my knowledge to understand more things that pertains to Black kids. That's why I joined.
I think for me it was, I definitely felt it answered what I saw was a really distinct need at the time, and wanting to come together with like-minded Black scholars, people working on Black health, and definitely within the medical humanities. I really felt the kind of like the absence of that particular kind of constellation of thinking and kind of working together. So yeah, it kind of came at the right time, really.
When the call out came, it was at a very particular time. We had the Black Lives Matter, COVID, and I think it was a very interesting time in history and an interesting time for Black scholars to ask the questions, very difficult questions. And I thought it would be a good space collectively to ask those questions. And I was thinking it was going to be a very good time to be with other people thinking about the same issues. I felt it was like a radical moment, that one needed to be in conversation with other people. That's why I joined.
I joined the Black Health and Humanities Network at a particularly vulnerable point in my PhD, when I felt like I was struggling with the insularity of both the PhD work in general and also my positionality as a researcher in the field of Black health, and feeling that my methodology coming from literary studies could perhaps benefit with an interdisciplinary and cross-sectoral approach. And what really appealed to me about the Black Health and Humanities Network was that broad, sweeping, cross-disciplinarity, cross-sectoral approach to tackling issues of race, space, barriers to access in healthcare. And I felt like it was genuinely very fortuitous that my supervisor saw the call for applications, because it's transformed my research trajectory and also my personal and professional ethics in ways that I wouldn't have anticipated.
When I saw the call, I was very excited to be part of a network of people thinking about Black health and like just Black lives in general. And I think I applied when I was just, like in the middle of my field work, so it was also a good opportunity to kind of like be around people thinking same things while I was actually like in the field and collecting data. So yeah, but it was to be around a collective of people just thinking about important questions about Black life.
Oh, well, I think it's a very good network in terms of trying to promote Black existentialism, which is in terms of empowering Black people in white spaces, whether it's in academia or in a discipline, that Black voices are not heard. So basically, the Black network is supposed to act as a platform that can project Black voices within those spaces. And my role as an environmental journalist or someone who specializes in environment is look at that space that has been completely racialized. Black people who lived here for centuries, but not been seen in those spaces. And so basically, I think the Black network is supposed to act as a platform, really, that people from various disciplines can bring in their trade or expertise to promote Black existentialism, which is about, trying to decolonize knowledge. The whole Eurocentric knowledge is completely being used to oppress Black people, and to be more Afrocentric in that perspective. And perspective really in terms of me as a Black academic, obviously at University of Nottingham is something to be seen as a role model, as a champion, as an ambassador, trying to inspire Black people within spaces that have been marginalized and oppressed for centuries.
I mean, it's benefited me, like, in many ways, actually, both like personally and also in my work. So I'll start with my work. So work-wise, it's helped me to kind of think through ideas in ways that I wouldn't necessarily do in the spaces that I otherwise would exist in. Now it's different because I'm in a very interdisciplinary department, but before I joined this department, I wasn't. And so, again, I was missing that kind of humanities, I don't want to say humanities edge, but I was missing that kind of conversation. And yeah, that's really, really important to my work, and both my research and my teaching. I bring a lot of humanities work into my teaching practices. So it's been really, really helpful professionally, but also personally, it's been almost like a lifeline for me during the pandemic and like since, because everyone's so nice, and it's such an amazing community of people that are doing amazing work, not just like academic work, but like outside of academia as well, but also are just really nice people. And so I think personally it's really helped me to kind of feel like I have a space of solidarity and care if I'm needing it when I'm working in difficult spaces, which is what we do when we research things like how racism affects health. It's a really difficult topic, and it's something that I do sometimes find really hard in my own work. So I think, yeah, having that space to kind of go and know that other people are there to offer support and to also empathize, because a lot of people experience it too, has been really valuable.
I definitely think I've met some amazing people who have really inspired me and give me lots to think about in relation to health and humanities. It's also introduced me to a wealth of, thinkers and scholars, particularly those who are Black and racialised, who I might not have had the chance to engage with before engage with the network. And I guess it's given me an outlet and a space to work through ideas and thoughts. My interest is particularly thinking about how we can use creative approaches to health and wellness and addressing inequalities. And I think being on this journey has allowed me the space and time to think a lot more about what that looks like, what it feels like, who could be involved in it. Just being introduced to new ways of thinking and working that I might not have had a chance to before. So I definitely feel I benefited from that.
It's been very rewarding in that I've learned a lot, and one of the things I value about this network is that it helps me to know that what I'm doing is very significant and very important, and with this network also helps me to have that feeling that what I'm doing can also, what I'm doing can be a reality. What I hope to do can be a reality. And also, one of the things I like about this network is a support network where you have colleagues who kind of motivate you, inspire you to do more in that aspect of Black health. So that's one of the things I've benefited. It's been a good support network, and I've been inspired a lot. When I have personal challenges with my studies, this group has been very helpful, and I've been able to overcome some certain challenges in my academics with this group support. So that's one of the things I benefited.
I think it was interesting because it arrived during the pandemic, and so not only were we kind of isolated from our kind of ordinary networks of working and research, so it kind of arrived at a time where the structure of the workshops and being able to come together in that particular way, and then looking forward to an in-person meeting, that kind of worked really well and was like a nice kind of anchor during the pandemic, where all the other kind of working methods have been sort of disrupted, should we say? Yeah.
I think it's benefited me being in conversation with other people, and it's actually the style that it's evolved. It's been in a very organic way, and something that I really wanted to do that's very important for my practice is for me to develop these one-to-one relationships with people. So it's just more than academics talking about the same thing. It's like I'm interested in the people. I want to know more about them, their interests, their passion, their motivation, because I think that is an important thing to make a network gel. So I'm interested in how people come together, how we think together, how we eat and drink together, how we break bread together, and how we become a community. So I'm more interested in what I'm bringing to the network than what the network has benefited me, in a way. So maybe we'll come to this in a year or two to say, well, how has it benefited me, or how has it benefited all of us? And I think the question should be, how are we benefiting society? How are we benefiting our community? So I'm flipping the question on you.
I think that it's made me really critically evaluate my methodology as a researcher. So I research non-biomedical expressions of mental health and healing in African Indigenous contexts. And I'm particularly interested in what we can draw from Indigenous knowledges and practices, or different ontological orientations of the body, the mind, and the self, relational encounters with health, And coming from a literary studies approach, what I realized is that there's a particular danger in just treating body as text or literary text as something that we can mine from or extract data from, perhaps, even if it's autobiography or memoir. And what the network really gave me was a way to think about lived experience and positionality, and also what the ethics of care are around handling content that might have sensitive, intimate resonance to people within the research community. So I think the question of barriers to access in research has taken on a different form for me now, thinking also about care, not just at the level of how we handle texts or research material, but also handle researchers with care and research ecologies and what it really means to transform research culture.
First of all, I found like a group, so I didn't feel alone. Like I think fieldwork can be quite isolating when you have your supervisors or like you're like navigating, interviews and things. So it was good to take a break, and I did do all the workshops, I think, while I was out in the field. So that was nice, kind of like take a break and like not be too immersed in like data collection, so to be a part of a group. So that was like the first benefit in terms of like just being around community and meeting people with shared interests. So I learned a lot about how people approach their PhDs and the methods they use. So I think the learning aspect as well.
Well, it's benefited me in two ways, really, because my contribution has helped the network, and vice versa, because I've met different scholars from different disciplines. We've exchanged knowledge, we've shared knowledge, we've bonded. I've learned a lot from various people. We had different speakers who came to talk about the various disciplines and what they do, and that has enhanced my learning going forward, because I think knowledge is supposed to be shared, and as Black people, I think it's quite central to have a platform that we could bond and use as a basis really to share knowledge and to inspire each other and to promote whatever we do, so we can bring up other people who have been marginalized in our communities or in the society. Because academia, for example, is a piracy. It's a space of piracy. And so when we have more Black academics within that space, then we can sort of support each other, to decolonize knowledge and to promote Black existentialism within those spaces.
Working on lots of things. So one of the things that I'll be working on most next term, because I'm not teaching next term, is a book project that is due in June, that's looking at ideas of grievability, so who we grieve and why we grieve them, and how racism and kind of racialized perceptions of risk and risky, quote unquote, risky behavior when it comes to health affects whether or not we grieve people and like who we extend sympathy to. So yeah, I've got a chapter on like mass incarceration, this kind of idea that people go to prison because they commit crimes, and therefore if they experience bad health, then that's the result of their own actions. When we know that actually a lot of people in the US, where this particular chapter is based, are in jail because they can't afford to leave, and that means that actually you're not technically guilty yet, and you're still experiencing poor health anyway. And a lot of these people are Black and brown people disproportionately. So yeah, I'm working on a book chapter that is a book project that is looking at ideas of grievability.
Okay, so I'm working on completing my PhD. I'm now going into the last stretch of the journey. I finished my data collection, and I'm just sitting with the data to try and make sense of what I've kind of captured. And from there, I will go on to identify themes and discuss those themes and what it means in the larger body of research that currently exists, but also what is different about what I've collected. And I think as part of my PhD, I'm also thinking a bit more about myself after academia in terms of where I will be, what I want to do. Do I see myself continuing to guest lecture or being a bit more consistent in academia? So maybe having like some sort of ongoing role in a teaching capacity. But just looking to explore my horizons after I finish my PhD, but also really looking forward to completing the PhD journey as well. And thinking a bit more about how I can collaborate with people from the network in ways that I haven't had the chance to. So yeah, completing the PhD, thinking about collaboration, and thinking about what the world looks like after or inside academia and outside of academia.
Yeah, I'm working on my thesis. So I'm working on the roles of African actors in global health. So at the moment, I'm focusing on Nigerian actors in the WHO, so focusing on the 50s and the 60s. So I'm trying to see how they emerge as players, because most scholarship for narrative that has been done on global work, they don't really tell us much about what African actors are doing. So my study, I'm trying to look more into what Africans have been doing and what we can learn for contemporary public health.
Trying to think about what the next 2 years will look like as I'm working on this project, where thinking about cultural representations of madness. So, for example, thinking about how genre mediates how we kind of understand and think about madness. So, for example, I've been thinking a little bit about Remy Weeks' film His House, which is it's kind of a horror film basically, but it's about kind of the legacies of trauma and I guess forgetting, memory, and loss. So thinking about how horror can be used to convey some of these kind of affects in a different medium. Yeah.
I'm working on many things at the moment, but the thing that really enlivens me and keeps me passionate is the poetry. So I'm working on a collection of poems. So I'm hoping that I bring out a chapbook or my first collection, which is going to look at mental health, wellness, poetry, journaling. Yeah.
So excitingly, I've just qualified as a yoga teacher, which might seem like a side hustle or a tangent, but it's feeding into my research in interesting ways because I can never sort of separate research and personal life. But I'm particularly interested in the idea of wellness and wellness culture, decolonizing wellness culture, and what it means to co-opt particular practices. So I come from a South Asian, Indian, Hindu background, what it means to co-opt practices from the non-West and how it circulates in the West, and how we can perhaps decolonize wellness culture in general, and what it means to re-narrativize these practices. So how we can reintegrate scripture, mythology, and think about mythology in yoga, for example, in ways that don't devalue it as the inferior other of reality or reason, for example, and what it means to really respect and dignify alternative expressions, practices, knowledges, wisdoms. So I'm really interested in the concept of wellness and self-care beyond this sort of individual neoliberal model of care. And I think now, wearing the hat of PI on the network as well, I'm really critically thinking about what it means to care for the research community and work in ways or model ways of working that are non-extractivist, and really unpack what it means to practice decoloniality in the flash.
I'm in the final stages of my PhD, so if it all goes well, I'll be submitting in like the next 2 weeks. So yeah, so quite at the end, and like just thinking of next step, but also just ready to like take a break and finish off the year. Yeah.
Besides right now my PhD, I'm also doing a whole lot of projects. I've been recognized within, the whole UK, what do you call it, excellence, as I'll call it, for my work in the environment, and I'm continuing to use that recognition to uplift and support and transform the communities I work in, to make Black people to be visible within those spaces.